young black kids growing up in the Bronx who don't even know what the word a computer is. They don't know. They don't know these things. And I want the world open up to all of them, because when you have their diverse voices innovating solutions through technology, then you're really addressing society's broader challenges.
Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. That is New York Governor Kathy Hochul, who stole her seat as governor, I might add, making comments that she had to know, A, was wrong, and B, that she was going to have to walk them back, which she has awkwardly done, or at least trying to do. But the New York governor in hot water with some extremely racist remarks about black kids. We're going to talk about Kathy Hochul, who, as I said, stole the governorship of New York. So we can start right there with Kathy Hochul. Don't get me started. A security guard was shot outside of Drake's Toronto home, and authorities immediately said that they are not yet sure or don't know if this is related to the ongoing beef between him and Kendrick Lamar that has gone totally nuclear. And we got some thoughts on that. We got a little bit of a history on that. There's some rumors about Universal wanting to step in, wanting Kendrick to apologize for calling Drake a pedophile. Universal latest word is that we're not getting involved in that. And you know what? It's making them a whole lot of money. They could care less if that shooting is related. They can care less if this does turn to the streets and gets really physical. We're going to talk about that this morning. Of course, what a day, what a disgusting day in court for someone who is the front runner to be president of the United States of America. Absolutely disgusting. Not just the testimony of Stormy Daniels, but throughout the course of her testimony, he's cursing and he's just extremely unpresidential, extremely just unhinged throughout, imploring his defense counsel. Every word Stormy Daniels saying, imploring her to object, and then demanded a mistrial. And the judge said, no, you're not getting off that easy. But he has gotten off very easy, because also this morning, this will be, we now understand this morning, this will be the only trial this year anyway of Donald Trump. With his, the judge that, the MAGA judge down in Florida has effectively squashed or quashed, or however you want to say it, the documents case, and putting it off until next year, which means that the January 6th case in Washington will be put off until next year, which means that Fonnie Willis's case in Georgia will be put off until next year as well. So Trump gets his wish, and this is the only prosecution that he will face this year. And ever, if he's elected president, he will not face it. And also, Mayor Eric Adams weighed in, saying that, listen, Judge, if you want to throw Trump in Rikers Island, we are here for it. We have the capacity. We have been preparing. Eric Adams says they have been holding high-level meetings with the Department of Corrections to house Donald Trump if the judge decides to throw him in jail for contempt. Also, the White House finally responded to our query about whether or not they will consider a pardon for former Baltimore State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby. Now, I got an email yesterday from Roderica Applewhite from the White House, who said their position right now is no comment, but apparently Karine Jean-Pierre, the press secretary, told April Ryan at the Griot that they consider these things. They have to go through the Department of Justice. so she gave her a little bit more than just a no comment on that. But remember, we implored the griot and April Ryan and others who do get a chance to more of a chance to ask questions at the press briefing to do so. It's good to hear that April Ryan asked the question, and it would be nice to know that this will be presented as Marilyn Mosby heads towards sentencing later this month. She's facing 40 years. And of course, we mentioned Governor Hochul and what she said about Black children, and that Kareen's answer was false. Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to get it here. All right. So we will get into that shortly. But a security guard for Drake was injured in a shooting outside his Toronto home overnight. The shooting was reported at about 2 a.m. local time. Police inspectors said in a news conference. The security guard, who has not been identified yet, was hospitalized and remains in serious condition. He did not share information about the extent of the guard's injuries, only that he remains in serious condition. But this comes, as you know, amidst this beef that has been going on and has gotten more and more volatile. One of Kendrick's tracks featured Drake's Toronto home as its cover art. And again, the police said that they can't speak to that being a motive at this time. They are still investigating. They also didn't confirm whether or not Drake was home at the time of the shooting, but the guard was standing outside when he was shot. And now police are saying also that they don't believe it was a simple drive-by shooting. However, they can't, something else they can't confirm, whether it's a drive-by or was this a act that was premeditated and more than just a drive-by. So really interesting stuff. Now, there's rumors going on that Universal is imploring Kendrick to apologize for referring to Drake as a pedophile, that they want this beef to end. Now, both of them are signed to Universal through distribution deals. But according to several new reports, it's just not true. Universal wants nothing to do with interfering, as they said, and the wording is interfering with this ongoing beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake. Universal is saying that they would never jump into something like this, so they have not. But the other part of that is it's caused a lot of attention to these two artists, and subsequently has padded the bottom line of Universal, and that's always been a problem. It's always been a problem. It's always been a problem because we know that a lot of these beefs, a lot of the violence that we've seen in hip hop, the record labels have sat back and collected checks while mostly Black men and women, but it's been mostly the Black men with the violence in rap, have gone at each other, have died, have lost their lives. And that's why I say it's a problem. Not that we're saying that Universal should mediate this or get involved to that extent. These very talented, very intelligent young Black men should be able to resolve this on their own accord. But this is, I don't even get it too much into today's rap. I'm not, I'm still old school. I mean, I was talking to Chuck D recently. Chuck was like, yeah, but some of this stuff, some good stuff that these guys are doing and blah, blah, blah. He says, don't close your mind to it or whatever. But that is not me. I am, 2 years ago, a friend of mine asked me to say some MC rhymes. I'm sucker MC error. You know what I mean? Microphone fiend, LL Cool J is hard as hell. That's me. This today's rap, I just don't get too much involved. But even with that said, a lot of people are involved. A lot of people are invested in this. But how did these two most famous artists, they are two of the most famous artists in the world. Well, how did they decide to take the gloves off and bring real life venom into an extended sparring match for rap supremacy? Well, this was weeks, months, and years in the making, with a sudden breakneck escalation into hip hop infamy. Here's a breakdown. We're going to ask, why now? Why now? Well, since late March, the much anticipated head-to-head seemed inevitable. Following years of, quote, will they or won't they, Lamar hit directly on record first this year during a surprise appearance on the song Like That by Future, with Metro Boomin is the producer, both formerly frequent collaborators of Drake. With audible disgust, Kendrick invoked the track First Person Shooter. And that was from last year's Drake album, For All the Dogs, in which J. Cole referred to himself, Drake, and Lamar as the big three of modern MC. So, okay. But Kendrick apparently took exception to the grouping. He declared that there was no big three, just big me. He also called himself the Prince to Drake's Michael Jackson. Okay. A deeper, more complex artist versus a troubled, pop-oriented hitmaker is how he broke it down in describing his Prince Michael Jackson take. Well, the song Like That spent 3 weeks at the top of the Billboard charts, and Future released 2 more chart-topping albums with Metro Boomin. We Don't Trust You, and We Still Don't Trust You. That was anchored by a parade of Drake's past associates, people who associated him in the past. Each of them seemed to share a distaste toward Drake. And then Drake called it out as a 20 versus 1 fight. Well, early last month, J. Cole fought back for a little bit. He released the song 7 Minute Drill, in which he called Lamar overrated. And then he apologized and had the song removed from the streaming services. He dropped out. But then Drake picked it up. He picked the baton up. He released a big time diss track called Push Ups less than a week later. And he really took aim at Kendrick Lamar's height, shoe size, and supposedly disadvantaged business dealings. Well, a week later, or less than a week later, Drake mocked Kendrick's lack of a response on tailor-made freestyle that he just put on social media. He taunted Kendrick for being scared to release music at the same time as Taylor Swift, and he accused him of using AI because he said, he used Tupac and Snoop Dogg, saying that, he's not good for the West Coast. Well, since Like That, he said your tone changed a little, you not as enthused. And so it went on and went on and went on. And then it just escalated to the point where every day it seems like they were dropping diss tracks. Power 96 says, when people ask me about that rap beef, I tell them the U.S. Supreme Court has gutted the 1964 Civil Rights Bill. It's really sad to see this go on. I mean, people are getting the excitement from this, when now we have as a backdrop, which may or may not have anything to do with this. Let's make it clear. They have not yet connected the shooting to this beef. At one point, Kanye was involved in this beef. Rick Ross got involved. The Weeknd, A$AP Rocky. But of course, the main event has always been Drake and Kendrick Lamar. They're a year apart. I think Drake is what, 37 and Kendrick is 36. And it's so interesting because they started out pretty much together, right? It was 2011 when Drake introduced Kendrick Lamar to mainstream audience with a dedicated showcase on his second album, Take Care. And then he gave him an opening slot on the arena tour that he was doing. And so they got off to a really good start. And now we come to this. There's the Poetic Justice, Good Kid, Mad City, all of that. And now we come to a shooting that could be at the center of this, because this is the week that this past week is when it really went nuclear. When Kendrick dropped Euphoria, and 3 sections of that song raised the temperature because he warned Drake about proceeding and insisted somewhat based, it's kind of like, is he being real or not? But he, and things were still friendly. He says, no, you a master manipulator and habitual liar too. This is what in the song. But don't tell no lie about me, and I won't tell truths about you. Then he accused Drake of imitating Black American heritage. He says, I hate the way that you walk, the way that you talk. I hate the way that you dress. I hate the way that you sneak this. If I catch flight, it's going to be direct. Then he went after me. I mean, they brought in baby mamas and children. KP Hodges out in Texas. She says, I don't keep up with this stuff. It appears that nothing was learned from the deaths of Biggie and Tupac. Can't we all just get along? There's plenty of money to be made in the industry. And that's my bottom line. It's like, come on. Like I said, I'm a back in the day type. And I remember very well LL and Kumo D's beef. But it was nothing like this. And it could be because, I mean, LL's the GOAT and, but it was nothing like this. It was just nothing like this. It's so personal. And again, as we said at the top, if we don't know if the shooting is connected. But this is it's now a serious problem, and whether or not people feel Universal should step in, that's something I don't co-sign, because once again, I think rappers, perhaps more than any genre, rap artists have been exploited forever. And this is the type of exploitation that goes on in hip hop. It has gone on in hip hop. I think that they have to agree to just disagree and move on, because as KP says, and I always say that there's plenty of money. They both have made more money than they should ever be able to spend. She says she loves Kumo D, LL the GOAT. That's another show. It's one is not taking money or even their place in the industry from the other. This is why they invoked Michael Jackson and Prince, and for a while there was probably not, those two probably didn't see eye to eye. It was not the great, but they didn't take it to their music to go after each other. They didn't take it like this. They didn't take it to being personal. They both were multi-millionaires beyond their wildest dreams. And so is Kendrick Lamar and Drake. Now, Drake comes from a family in which perhaps there's a little bit of entitlement there. But neither one of them in their wildest dreams could have imagined, could have dreamed a scenario where they would be A, this wealthy, and B, this popular. And to throw this all away, or to not necessarily throw it all away, but to have this be the centerpiece that folks will look back on and remember more than all of the good, and remember all this more than the fact that you guys were considered the top of your field, is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And so not that Drake or Kendrick Lamar would listen to us and let it be known, but we are right there with KP. Just move on from this. Southbound 3000 to De La Soul, Jungle Brothers, Tribe Called Quest, favorite unit, where they at? I think folks are just not inclined to get involved in this. Those folks are not inclined at all to get involved in this. And as it was mentioned earlier, come on, we saw the Biggie Tupac situation, and neither one of them are here with us today. Both would still be relatively young men. Power 96, he's going to continue on with his message of sensibility. He says, just imagine if people voted in all elections like they followed rap beef. Just maybe we wouldn't have redlining, gerrymandering, and food deserts in our cities and neighborhoods. Sounds like something Dr. Chavis would say, Power 96. Oh, gosh. But yeah, that banner right there says it's getting heated. It's heated up. It's hot. It's white hot. And somebody needs to throw a little bit of cold water on this. And perhaps this incident at Drake's home yesterday will be that much needed cold water. And hopefully the security guard is able to recover from his wounds. But this is a topic we discussed. We wanted to bring because it was no longer, once the shooting happened, I would say and agree. I think it's something that we should not ignore anymore. I mean, we try not to entertain too much. And I hate to phrase it this way, but black on black stuff. And I won't say crime, but I'm just saying stuff in general. Kind of like we try to be more like Stephanie Mills. Stephanie Mills is 100%. She's not going after anybody black. She's always gonna side with black. And so if we got black person versus black person, she's going with the black person. Southbound 3000 says, is DE and I excluded from the big record labels? Think about it. Yeah, and really interesting stuff. Well, yesterday was perhaps the most ridiculous day in the history of U.S. politics. It says a lot. But when you have not only a former president, but someone who's leading candidate to be the president in just a few months, when you have an individual like that who's sitting there after a porn star testifies that they had this affair, he didn't use protection, she spanked him, it was over before it got started. Quick draw McGraw. And he's cursing And the judge is telling his attorneys, you got to keep your client from using 4-letter words. And it's the most embarrassing day in American political history. It's got to be at least one of the most embarrassing days. He doesn't feel any embarrassment. And she goes on to talk about how he compared her, and this is so cringeworthy. He compared her to his daughter. And we know the comments that he publicly made about his daughter. We talk about how he can be, or has shown himself to be at times, a very, very mean-spirited, evil person. But perhaps this man is in need of some sort of mental health assistance. I mean, he's muttering, perhaps with him muttering under his breath and cursing and everything else. Perhaps there's some sort of dementia setting in. Because throughout the proceedings to this point, to the point in which Stormy Daniels took the stand, he had been nodding off, passing gas in the courthouse, and from time to time, lift his head up, almost like he needed his slobber to be wiped. Perhaps there is some dementia going on. But when Stormy Daniels started speaking, he perked up. And a dementia person, I don't know if you've ever been around anybody with dementia or Alzheimer's, some things come back to them and they perk up. And that's exactly what happened with Donald Trump. Stormy Daniels started talking about their encounter. She comes up the elevator. He couldn't even come up with a real fake name. It was Timothy Trump or something, but it was Trump. He used the name Trump. She says he's in these pajamas, this Harvey Weinstein-like pajamas. Now that's my editorializing. She didn't say Harvey Weinstein-like, but this is how they described the situation with Harvey Weinstein. They come to his hotel room, he'd be in these silk pajamas. He was in his pajamas. Mike V says she also said the tangerine tyrant had a tangerine gummy worm. Oh God, why did I read that? Yeah, she was the thing about her though, and she admitted she hated him. She said it on the stand, and that could come back to hurt the prosecution, because and she'll continue with cross-examination today. Because the amount of and the level of hate that she displayed, her testimony is likely 100% true, but jurors are human beings, and so sometimes they only see action, they don't hear words. And what they were able to see demonstrably was her intense hatred of Donald Trump. And she talked about the money. She didn't care that it was $150,000 in hush money. And I believed her. She said it wasn't even about the money. She just she regretted taking her clothes off for this man. And this is a porn worker. This is somebody who takes her clothes off for everybody. Do other unimaginable or imaginable things, depends on what your imagination is. But she regretted it so much. And she absolutely despises this man. And it came across clear. And this is what the defense team has been harping on. Oh, so you'll say anything because you hate him. I mean, at one point she referred to him as an orange turd adult film star. Thanks, David. I was trying to find the politically correct way of saying that, and just for some reason it slipped my mind, and David had to have been reading my mind But she referred to him as an orange turd from the stand. It's a horrible day. It's just another. Yesterday Greer showed a clip of these Republicans saying how they must get rid of democracy, that this can't be a democracy. It's just another dagger. Yesterday was just another dagger into democracy in America. Because the fact that this guy, listen, I would never get involved in telling anybody vote for this person, vote for that, how to vote, whatever. But to even think that someone like this, with this track record, who appears from my untrained eyes to be battling this beginning stages of dementia, who compares an adult film star, thank you, David, to his daughter, whom he's previously talked about how if she wasn't his daughter and how hot she is and how ridiculous does that sound, folks? How disgusting. It makes you vomit, want to vomit. Who looks at their daughter other than Woody Allen like that? Who? It's the most repulsive thing. And she's sitting there and they're having this conversation, and he tells her, she asks about his wife. She compliments his wife, and he says, oh, we don't even sleep in the same bed together. And the amazing thing is that Melania full-throated support him, at least publicly anyway. I got to tell you, and I come on, ain't no way in the world I'm sleeping with an adult film star that my wife is going to support me, regardless of what. She'd be a star witness for the prosecution. Put him away, put him in jail. But this guy sitting in this hotel suite, she said they spoke for 2 hours, and it took about 20 seconds for them to finish their sexual encounter. She said he talked about casting her on The Apprentice, which of course never happened. And then of course in 2016, she finally agreed not to disclose her story in exchange for $130,000 from Michael Cohen, who at the time was Trump's fixer. He made the payment just days before the presidential election. And prosecutors said that's hush money. Those were hush money payments. Trump is facing 34 counts of falsifying business records stemming from those payments to Stormy Daniels. His defense attorneys have argued that the money was to cover Michael Cohen's legal fees. Of course, he's pleaded not guilty. He denies having sex with her. She said as part of the $130,000 payment, she couldn't tell her story about the sexual encounter or lack thereof. And the two couldn't have any contact. She said we had to pretend that we didn't know each other at all. She said she accepted the money, signed a non-disclosure agreement, even though she understood that Trump was the beneficiary of the agreement. And so she said she signed the agreement because she wanted the whole ordeal, she described it, to be over and not for the money. Just such embarrassing stuff. Power 96 mentions that Hillary stood by Bill. He says his wife would have cut me and the adult film star to the white meat. Oh gosh. Meanwhile, Mayor Eric Adams, Mayor Eric Adams said the city's Department of Corrections in Rikers Island is ready if the judge decides to throw Trump in jail. The department's Corrections Department's Commissioner Lionel Liddy is prepared for whatever comes on Rikers Island, and I'm pretty sure this is Mayor Adams. I'm pretty sure she would be prepared to manage and deal with the situation. He says that they had to deal with it with Harvey Weinstein when he was transferred recently to Rikers Island to the medical ward there. She says, the mayor says we have to adjust in this business, particularly around law enforcement. We have to adjust whatever comes our way, but we don't want to deal with the hypothetical. But they are professionals. They'll be ready. He says that discussions with the department about Trump's situation has been ongoing. So Mayor Adams is saying, hey, Judge, you have the green light. He violates the order again. We are ready to receive the former president of the United States of America into Rikers Island. That, folks, that is stunning. When if you are even 20 years old, that is, you couldn't even imagine a former president being on Rikers Island. Monique Daniels says, tell Power 97, I did not have relations with that woman. So Marilyn Mosby, the White House has signaled that it does not want to tip the scales of justice by giving an answer to any potential or non-support of the pardon petition on behalf of Marilyn Mosby. During a White House press briefing, Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told April Ryan that there's a pardon application process for any federal pardons, which she said is up to the U.S. Department of Justice. So it wasn't necessarily a no, we are not going to do it. As Greer points out, the President of the United States is authorized by the U.S. Constitution to grant a pardon for a federal crime, right? Mosby was convicted for lying on forms claiming hardship to withdraw money from her retirement to purchase a home. Now, this hardship came during the COVID pandemic, and it was a hardship for everybody during the COVID pandemic. Bakari Sellers said that the potential excessive sentence for Marilyn Mosby is, quote, political persecution and retribution. And that's how a lot of folks feel. And it's good to hear Bakari Sellers speak out like that on this issue. Because, we know that she charged those 6 Baltimore police officers in the death of Freddie Gray in 2015. And so this petition that has been circulating, this petition wants the president to step in. You can't imagine. I can't imagine. And I've talked to many people. They can't imagine. Greer and I have talked about this. Vice President Kamala Harris not wanting, a former prosecutor herself, and of course a Black woman, not stepping in and saying, you know what, this is over with. We're full pardon, not some half done stuff where, she'll have to, probation or do some time for it. No, this should be a full pardon for Marilyn Mosby. $5,000 is what we're talking about. And again, remember, $5,000 of her own money. Whether or not she misled saying that the money came from her husband or not. How do you separate? How do you separate the fact they married couple? If she said it's her husband's money, it's her money. How do you say it's my money and it's not my husband's money, or it's my money, it's not my wife's money? My money, now I'm speaking personally, is my wife's money. Now it's not the other way around, though, right? But the thing about it is, you know that this was nothing more than, as Bakari Sellers says, a political persecution. This young lady should not be facing 40 years in prison. And as Power 96 says, she actually cleaned up Baltimore's police department. That gang task force is no more. And we know what that gang task force was doing. They got convictions. And as he mentioned, yes, those cops are in prison for decades. Those cops were the primary enemy. And Mike V, you are touching on a nerve, especially when it comes to, as Power 96 says, the red bone, Dawn, because Mike V says, I'm interested in knowing what the DOJ is doing with Brett Favre and his financial scandal down in Mississippi. We have talked about that ad nauseum, as they say. And there's no outcry. Taking money from the poorest of the poor is what happened down in Mississippi, using welfare funds to build a soccer stadium for his daughter, and among other things, with the cooperation, obviously the cooperation of the governor down there at the time. Yes, Brett Favre, there's no question that that's an individual that needs to be prosecuted. The statute of limitations has not run out, despite the media and everyone else going quiet on that situation. Brett Favre needs to face some consequences for that. And that's a case in which he apparently, allegedly lied to get the money. And we're not talking $5,000. We're talking about a few $1 million. And in some cases, in that whole Mississippi welfare scandal, we're talking about $100 million stolen from the poorest of the poor. And Mississippi, it doesn't get too much poorer than Mississippi. So if you're poor in Mississippi, oh my gosh, you're basically in slavery. Governor Kathy Hochul, New York governor, says she regrets making an offhand remark that suggested that Black children in the Bronx do not know what the word computer means. Hochul, who made the comments Monday while being interviewed at a large business conference in California. She goes out of state. She goes out of state across the country to disparage Black children. She was on she was at a conference to discuss the expanding economic opportunities in AI for low-income communities. And this is, she says, as you heard at the top of this program, right now we have young Black kids. Why single out Black kids growing up in the Bronx who don't even know what the word computer is? They don't know these things. David Youngblood says, white privilege has a very, very short statute of limitations, period. You only have about 24 hours to catch it and prosecute it. The Governor Hochul's remark was not addressed during the interview, and the governor went on to explain that her goal is to provide avenues for communities of color to access emerging AI technologies as a means to address social inequality. Assemblywoman Amanda Septimo, who is from the Bronx, who represents the Bronx, called the governor's remarks harmful, deeply misinformed, and genuinely appalling. The governor released a statement later saying, "I misspoke and I regret it. Of course, Black children in the Bronx know what computers are. The problem is that they too often lack access to the technology needed to get on track to high-paying jobs in emerging industries like AI. That's why I've been focused on increasing economic opportunities since day one, and will continue that fight to ensure every New Yorker has a shot at a good-paying job." And so, Governor, that's what you should have said in the beginning. You should have just said the problem. You said it in your statement. The problem is that Black children often lack access to the technology needed to get on track to high-paying jobs in emerging industries like AI and a lot of industries. That's where you should have began and ended. But to single out Black children, to make them look like buffoons, it's on you. It's what's in that deep, dark heart of yours. And that's just the bottom line. You know, out of the mouth's abundance, out of the heart's abundance, the mouth speaks. And so she went to California and decided to try and be cute and play fast and loose with racism, and got called out. But it is extremely true that our children need more access. But why is it that they don't have the access in the first place, Governor? You can't find, you can hardly find Black books anymore, Black themed books. Teachers are afraid to teach Black history, American history. Let's start there. Let's fix that. But this is, again, boy, oh boy, now I'm going to sound like the broken record that some people probably say needs to stop. But this is, again, why I am so disgusted with Mayor Muriel Bowser's policies. And in fact, Daniel Glick now works for Muriel Bowser. He used to work in the U.S. House of Representatives for a couple of different legislators. Reached out to me yesterday. I got to call him today. In fact, we have to talk to Daniel Glick today, and maybe we could get Muriel Bowser on, let it be known, to discuss these policies of hers that don't address this. That's for sure. Don't address the lack of access that these Black children have. Maybe that's why, that's part of why, I should say. Maybe that's one of the many reasons why she's having trouble keeping Black children in public schools in DC. Because maybe there is nothing there to keep them. Maybe they recognize too that they're not giving them the tools that they need. Maybe that's part of it. So hopefully this conversation with Daniel will go well enough that he will tell his boss that she needs to come talk to the Black press. Mike V says Black folks make up less than 10% of the tech industry. We make up less than 3% of the cybersecurity and less than 1% of AI. And that is the cold hard facts. And that's what Governor Hochul should have led with and ended with. And that's what we're going to end with this morning, folks. We appreciate you all. Go on to our YouTube page and hit the share, subscribe button, and then you can share it. But thanks for watching. We'll bring you some more headlines tomorrow. Thanks for joining us.